being open to life also means being open to the potential surprises and ups and downs and sufferings that can come with it. In our pro-life focus segment this week, we sit down with Catholic author and mother of 6, Kathryn Whitaker. Whittaker has just released a new book, Live Big, Love Bigger, in which she recounts how God shook up her type A orderly life with the birth of her premature son. We discuss big families, the lessons learned from her son's time in the hospital, and how you can't always plan your parenthood. Here's our interview. Kathryn Whitaker, thanks for speaking with us.
Thanks for having me.
It's a joy. You describe yourself as a type A, hyper-organized kind of woman, but then life threw you a curveball, something you couldn't control with your 5th pregnancy. Can you speak to us and share with us about your son Luke's birth?
Yes. So Luke was born at 36 weeks, so what people would consider a late-term preemie. And we thought that he just had a wonky kidney. And then he was born, and it was an emergency C-section, so wasn't prepared for that. And then on day 9, Luke got necrotizing enterocolitis, so basically an intestinal illness that ate away at his bowels. So he coded and stopped breathing, and we had to resuscitate him, and that began our whole new life in the NICU and our whole new life as a family.
At one point in your book, you write, "I cried more in that first year after Luke's birth than the previous 13 years of our marriage combined. Emotional, completely sleep-deprived, and stressed. I felt as if no one understood the fear I carried." Kathryn, what kind of impact did having a premature baby have on your marriage?
It was like a wrecking ball. I mean, we had a beautiful marriage. We were faithful. We were going to church. We were doing all the things. I don't think you can prepare yourself for something like that. And it was a massive disconnect because I was hypersensitive to everything that was going on with Luke in the hospital. Scott was trying to keep things humming at home. And it was such a massive hit to the heart and to the soul and to the faith in all the ways. And our kids at home were suffering because we were kind of part-time parents trying to do both in the NICU and them. And it was brutal. It was the hardest thing I've ever done.
But you did seek help.
Yes. So we went to counseling about 7 months after Luke was born. I had a good friend come to the hospital. Luke was back in the hospital for another surgery. And she said, "Kathryn, maybe you should go get some help." And she's a mama who knows. They have 3 special needs children. And when Scott came to the hospital that night, I said, "I think maybe we need to go get some help." And he said, "I think you're right." And it really was at the encouragement of his former boss, Bishop Amond, who's now the Archbishop in New Orleans. That was a big thing that he encouraged his employees to do, to seek help, and seek counseling. He would do it once a year. And I think had it not been for his influence, I'm not sure that we would have seen it as an option.
Because even though that's going on with your child, you need to be paying attention to your marriage.
Yes.
And strengthening your marriage.
Yes.
Kathryn, because you were open to life, you were open then to the suffering that came with that. And the suffering that comes with having a premature baby. What has that experience and motherhood taught you about God?
Well, we finally got real with each other. I mean, I'm Southern, Texan, so very polite, and we had this little no sir, yes sir relationship. And then Luke rolls into our life, and things finally got real. I finally developed a relationship with Christ that was authentic and real, and we finally did a deep dive into what does it really mean to be a Christian? What does it mean to live this countercultural life? And what does it mean to love when the cross feels completely and totally unbearable?
I think your witness, Kathryn, just so juxtaposes this message that the culture tells us that we can be just perfectly in control of everything. And it's the lie the abortion industry tells us. I mean, look at the name Planned Parenthood. But you can't really plan your parenthood, can you?
No, we did not plan this. This was not in the color-coded plan that I had given God about our lives. I think with Luke, I finally just sunk into the fact that it's okay to not be in control because all the details that I was worrying about ultimately didn't affect the end game, that God was in control of the long game. And we finally just had a real relationship, a real life with him. And I mean, it's been harder, but it's also been a lot more sanctifying and a lot more beautiful. And I'm grateful that that's a witness that my kids have been able to see, and that Luke he's transformed tons of people, not just in our own family. It's been beautiful.
That is beautiful. And Kathryn, you are a convert to Catholicism. And some of the church's hardest teachings
are her teachings on life and her teachings against contraception. So I'm curious, as a convert to Catholicism through this journey in motherhood and marriage, how did you grapple with that?
I really struggled. And as a matter of fact, the life issues for me were, even though I was a Protestant, grew up appreciating life, contraception and the death penalty were two things. I'm from Texas, so those were two ingrained things that I had a really hard time accepting. And there's a whole big, beautiful story about how we eventually came to accept that teaching of the church when it came to artificial contraception. But I don't know. I think when you face and you're kneeling at the bedside of your baby who you don't know if it's going to make it through the night, I mean, I think that puts a lot of things into laser focus. And we saw the sanctity of life all around that NICU. I mean, you couldn't get away from it. And each one of those lives were dignified and beautiful. And we willingly went into that. And I think it transformed how we felt and how I want to meet people where they are who are struggling with the same thing. Because I get it. It's hard. The church is asking hard things of us.
You are very open about the fact that being a mom of 6, sometimes life can be chaotic.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So what do you want to say to a viewer who's watching that might intimidate them? Being open to life and being open to that chaos that might ensue. What kind of word do you want to share with them?
Be present. So don't try to be the mom that you're going to be 10 years from now. Like, how am I going to handle 10 kids, or how am I going to handle 4 kids when I just have one? Like, you're not there yet. We learned a lot of things along the way. And so the Catherine of 18 years ago who just had 1 baby is very different than the Catherine now who has 6. And I think it was just the grace of being present and saying we're going to enjoy the season, even the hard parts, because there's a lot of hard parts when you have a lot of little babies, and then know that God is going to give us what we need when we get to the next season. And he certainly showed us that with Luke, but just don't try to live in a life that you're not there yet. Just, focus where you are and be present and love your people. You'll figure it out.
Some wise words. Kathryn Whitaker, thank you so much for taking time to be with us.
Thanks, Catherine. I appreciate it.